3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare neurological illness. This is a condition that progressively kills off the small fiber nerves in your nervous system. These nerves are responsible for your feeling, soft touch, heat sensation, hot and cold, but they also control things like blood flow to different parts of your body, the way that your skin is replenished and nourished, and it can control or affect cognitive function, the way you think, language, words, memory. And when I was diagnosed with this condition, it was by a doctor in Australia, a neurologist, after going to doctor after doctor that had no idea what was going on with me. And I think reading between the lines, most of them just assumed it was anxiety. And it just wasn't, they listed the symptoms and said these symptoms don't add up to a disease. And although nobody said go see a psychologist, there were mentions of anxiety and things like that. And to be honest, I certainly at that point was also mentally ill because I was so physically ill and not getting any answers. So I eventually met this neurologist who is a semi-retired neurologist who likes to sort of take tough cases and nut things out and try to figure out what's really going on. And he actually called me at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night one night. And he said, I think I know what's going on with you. I Googled it. And this was a neurologist that essentially he never thought that he knew so much that there wouldn't be something out there that he didn't know. And he told me he believed that my symptoms were genuine and that maybe it was something he didn't know. So he read me the description of this disease and he said, that's you, isn't it? That's it. And I said, yeah, I think that is it. And then he said, I'm going to order these tests. We're going to figure out what's going on, if there's any possible treatments, and come into my office tomorrow and we'll sort of work all this out. So I go into the office the next day and he says, well, I've got some bad news. They don't do the tests here in Australia. It's such a sort of rare condition that they don't even have the ability to test. The test would have to be done overseas. So although I think this is the condition you have, you really need to be tested to be able to tell whether you do have this condition or not. And so that sent me on a journey to see some of the best doctors in the world for this type condition. I traveled to my hometown of Rochester, Michigan, and then after being there a couple of days, continued on to Massachusetts, Boston, Maine. It's an area where Mass General is based and Harvard is based. And there's some doctors there that specialize in this condition. And I walked in the door and I saw the doctor and he spent a lot of time with me. But within the first 5 minutes, he said, I know this is it. I know this is it. I don't even have to do the test. We'll do the test, but I know this is what it is. And when the test came back, it was positive. It was a strong positive. Essentially, through parts of my body, I only have 10% of the normal amount of nerve fibers of this type of the small nerve fibers in my body left. And that results in a wide range of problems for me. And one of them is widespread pain, basically where these nerve fibers used to be and have now died off. It's almost like a phantom limb sensation, somebody who has lost a limb and they have an itch or a pain in a limb that doesn't exist anymore. I kind of liken it to that. These nerves were there to sense pain and hot and cold and touch and pressure. And once they're gone, at times they leave behind them no sensation, but at other times they leave this sort of phantom pain. So pretty much 24 hours a day, I feel like my face, my hands, my feet have a terrible case of sunburn and frostbite at the same time. It's particularly bad when I wake up in the morning, but the undertone and sort of the background noise of my life is just constant pain. And at my worst, my symptoms were beyond pain. I also had significant cognitive function problems. I lost a lot of language. When I was really tired, there was a time where I couldn't even remember my own children's names. I had to get their passports out just to look and see what their names were. During that time, I was even in bed most of the time. I could barely walk around the block. My heart rate would go up and I would collapse, and my quality of life was so poor. It really left me wondering, what is the purpose in living a life that is this, that is this, and I didn't know what my purpose is. What is the point? And really, at that point, my purpose became just to survive, just to be there for my children. And I've never said this stuff out loud before, so it's sort of, I don't know. Anyways, I committed myself to just being there. Just being there. In whatever form I could be, I would just be there for them. And that was my purpose, and I sort of got by day by day. I was here, I was waking up, I was surviving, and then I started making some changes in my life. I made a bunch of dietary changes that my partner had done research and said that it helped people with my condition. I went on an experimental treatment that was recommended by the people at Massachusetts General. And I just looked after myself the best way I possibly could. I also decided that I wouldn't just give in to the pain. I wouldn't think about the pain anymore. I would just block it out the best I could and just try to look like a normal person and act like a normal person and fake living a normal life. And I knew that that was definitely better than laying in bed, both for me and for my family. And so that's what I did. And I did that for a period of time, and I started to improve. And it's still not clear to me how much my symptoms have actually improved, how much the treatment has done anything, how much the exercise and diet. So I don't really know what the source of improvement has been, but I'm definitely better, a lot better than I was at my worst. And because I was improving, all of a sudden just surviving wasn't enough. I wanted to have some real purpose, something to do, something to get out of bed in the morning and find some sort of meaning in my life. And I decided I would start making YouTube videos again. And I'd been making YouTube videos before I got sick. And as I was showing some improvement, I edited a couple of old videos and published those videos. And so I sat down in front of the camera and I shot my first video back. And the thing that really stood out to me when I was editing that video was how mostly normal I looked. Now, I screwed up my language a lot. There was a lot of words that I had lost. I had to pause and find them. I edited a lot of that out. I had mishmash word problems where instead of saying tripod, in one video I kept saying tripad, where I was combining tripod and iPad, I think. And apparently this is not unusual with people who have neurological problems or neurological damage, because I see this with stroke victims as well. They tend to mash words together. And that was happening to me. It was making the videos hard to make. It made them longer to make, made them longer to edit. But at the end, after I edited the video and watched it, I thought, I look pretty normal. I think most people would have no idea what I've been through or what I'm going through. And then I published those videos. And I got such an overwhelmingly positive response. A couple sort of responses about the language or the way I was speaking or when I messed up my words, but it was nothing really too sinister, and I'm sure they had no idea what I was actually going through, and there was no real ill will in it. But overwhelmingly, the response was positive, and this is at a time where I started focusing on my Canon M50 and EFM videos. And I did that because I thought, moving forward, these are the people that I could provide the most value to, because people always said that I was really good at sort of taking complicated things and boiling them down into simple words that people could understand, absorb, and use. And so that's what I was doing. And I just got such a positive response at it, and it just created this sort of snowball effect. So I was getting positive feedback, so I started making more videos, and so I was getting more positive feedback, and I got this sort of snowball effect. And this actually helped me sort of gain my language and my conversational skills back, even though I'm talking to a camera, primarily because I was so ill. I really wasn't socializing with people. I was really only talking to my family. And so talking to the camera was probably the biggest form of talking I was doing. And it was clear that I had to do that to kind of find these words and regain my language again. So this conversation with the camera and this relationship with you, the viewer, if you've watched any of my videos, or if you've commented, if you've used any of my affiliate links, the affiliate links have been a huge thing. I mean, I couldn't really work or have any income, and that really has made a huge difference in my life and my family's life and my quality of life. So you have been a massive part of my journey and healing. And the reason I'm making this video now is because my journey on YouTube, the restriction has really always been my health, my ability to communicate, my energy levels, how much effort I could put into all this. And my condition has now stabilized, and I would say improved to the point where I don't feel like that's actually the limiting condition anymore. The limiting thing of this channel for me is the space that I'm in. I am, and this is another thing you wouldn't know about this channel, I'm essentially shooting my YouTube videos in a storage closet. It was meant to be a laundry room initially when the building was renovated, and then they decided to make it a study or home office. But if you go into sort of any house in standard 4-bedroom house in North America, and if they've got a walk-in robe, this is basically the size of a walk-in robe. In fact, I can actually touch both walls with my hands. Now, I've got long arms, but yeah, I can touch both walls with my hands. And it is so hard to work in this environment and shoot these videos. So I've made a huge decision and a big investment in the channel and my future on YouTube, and I've taken on a separate apartment to be a YouTube studio space. And so right now I am saying goodbye to this closet YouTube studio. But I wanted to take a chance just to kind of document the studio itself, for one, and also tell you about my health journey and the role that you have played in it, and what you have probably completely unknowingly done for me, and by extension of that, my children and my family. And so for that, thank you. Now, let me show you this studio. I'm going to take you on this mini tour. It's a bit hard because it's a cramped space, but I just want to kind of put it on the record. This is where it started, and I really do enjoy this space, but it is just a little bit too small for me. Now, the first thing I'll show you is the lens shelf. We installed all these shelves, and we also painted the walls. I wanted to paint the walls a bit of a darker color because that allowed me to control the light. In this small room, what I found is the light was just bouncing everywhere, and it was kind of washing out the image, and I couldn't get that sort of, I don't know, highlighted person in the center of frame myself with that little bit of a dark, moody background that I was sort of looking for, which you see commonly in YouTube videos. And I think you could achieve that look with white walls in the right room, but this thing was so tight that it was just bouncing off, and it just washed out the image completely. So what we did is we painted the walls this sort of bluey gray color, and that just really gave me a lot of control of the light. Speaking of light, my normal lighting setup is actually a Godox kit, CL or GL something, the 60 and the 40. So these are two 40-watt lights, and then the main key light is a 60-watt light. and that came in a kit which had all three lights in it. Any of the stuff, in fact, as part of the studio tour, I'll link all the studio gear in the description down below. So if you want to check that out, you can do that. So here is the lens shelf or the gear shelf, and I've got 3 different levels, and each level is a different camera brand. So the top level is my Fuji shelf, and I'd say Fuji overall is probably my favorite camera system to shoot. I really enjoy shooting with Fuji system, and you hear a lot of people say it just inspires them to create, and I do feel that way about it as well. The issue I've got with it primarily is that the autofocus is really unreliable. So for video or creating videos like this, it does make it a bit challenging. And I used to shoot all my YouTube videos on Fuji. I do shoot the occasional ones still, but I set those at manual focus at the beginning of the video and just leave it. So for that reason, I have started using Sony to shoot my more recent videos, but I kind of go back and forth between Sony, Fuji, and Canon for all these different videos. Now, my second shelf is my Canon shelf, and I've got a few of the full frame cameras in there, but really my Canon lineup is mainly about my Canon M50 and my Canon M6 Mark II and those EFM lenses and the lineup there. I have a couple of RF lenses, and I guess it would be 3 RF cameras, but most of my videos you see I do the EF stuff. And when I look to go to full frame, rather than going full frame on Canon and sort of started getting the Canon RF lenses and full frame lenses, I found that was super expensive. So for my full frame stuff, I've actually gone to Sony. And that's what we're looking at this bottom shelf. This is all my Sony gear here. And I've got a Sony ZV-E10, I got a Sony FX30, and I've got the Sony A7 IV, which is what you're looking at me on now. And I've done my most recent videos with these cameras. I don't love the out of camera colors out of these cameras nearly like I do either Canon or Fuji. But I am using some phantom LUTs, and so I shoot in log footage and I edit it and I make the colors look the way I want, but the workflow is a lot more challenging. So I think just purely for out of camera colors, particularly if you want something good and natural, I really do like both Fuji and Canon over Sony. All right, so this is my sort of my lens shelf, and up the top here, I'll show you, I've just got where I keep all the boxes, because eventually after this stuff is sort of, I don't need it anymore, I've done enough reviews or comparison videos, I end up reselling it, so I hang on to the boxes. And the boxes has become a major problem. I've got closets full of boxes, and it seems whenever I figure out I'm never going to sell this thing, I end up getting rid of the box. A few weeks later, I decide that I want to sell it. So I try to hang on to all my boxes. This is where I sit to shoot all my videos, but it is also where I sit to edit my videos. And it has been a good multifunction space because I just sit here and edit, and then I turn and I shoot the camera angle here down this way for the actual recording of the videos. The other thing that I've got here, which has really been helpful, is this OC monitor. It's a 21-inch monitor for monitoring my video. And I used to have an on-camera monitor, but what I found is when I had an on-camera monitor, I'm constantly looking at the on-camera monitor. I'm sort of distracting myself. Where I've got it off to the side here, I've got a big 21-inch monitor, and that allows me to see if anything's wrong in the frame or the shot, or if I've got something on my shirt, or my hair's messed up, what have you. But then once I've established that, I can look at the camera and I don't get distracted by that on-camera monitor. I find even with the monitor on the side of the camera, like I'm shooting with now, I find that one, will get distracted, but two, it's so small, I often miss things that should be in frame and aren't, or things that shouldn't be in frame that are, what have you. I've just got a Dell widescreen monitor here, which is what I edit on. I've got the Mac Studio, which is the computer that I use to edit on, and that really has been life-changing for me. Prior to getting this new apartment that I'm going to be shooting in, that was one of the biggest investments I made. It was about 3,000 Australian dollars. And I got it because I thought I will be able to make more videos if I've got a faster computer, because I was editing on a MacBook Air. Since I've got that, I mean, that thing paid for itself very quickly, because I was probably maybe doing another one video a week just because of my ability to edit more videos more quickly. So that was a real win. I've got an audio interface. This is the Arturia MiniFuse 4 that I use. The MiniFuse 1 has sort of the same sort of preamps and setup, but I really like this. This is a great budget audio interface. I use it for recording voiceovers straight into the computer. I also use it for sort of monitoring the audio, in which I use the Rode NT-H100 headphones. For all of my recording of audio now, I actually use the Zoom F3 recorder, and I find this a much better solution because it's 32-bit float, which means you don't have to set the audio levels, which means you never end up in a situation where your audio is too quiet or too loud. You have unlimited dynamic range, so you just record and then you set your levels after once you've got it into the computer. That means that I never screw up my audio, I never get distortion, or I never get background amp hiss when I sort of lift that in editing because I've sort of put the levels too low. So that has been great. No more screwed up audio. I really like that. My main microphone is the Sennheiser MKH50. I love this. This is probably my very favorite thing in my YouTube studio. It's probably my favorite part of my production workflow is this microphone. I just love the way it sounds. And then for voiceovers, I've got this Shure SM7B, very popular sort of, I don't know, it's really a great microphone, and it's sort of the industry standard. I go back and forth between this and my Rode Procaster, which I've got sort of down here. So those are the two microphones that I use, but lately I have been using the Shure SM7B. The other thing that I've got that you'll notice, this little table that I just sit and shoot my videos on. If you're watching the video, you'll see that I've got this in front of me. This is actually a tray that I got out of, it was like one of these wheel around eating platforms that an old person sits on the couch and eats at. And I think the person actually passed away and they were throwing it out. And I grabbed it and I put a new top on it. And it's got wheels on it, and it's great because it can sort of move around and get out of my way, or I can bring it into shot. And I was able to cut the top to the perfect size that I want. So I really like this. This is actually one of my favorite things in the studio, and I will bring this over into the new studio. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little thing. I also like recycled things, and I like used things, and I like things that have some sort of history and giving them new life. And having that part of the studio is something that I really enjoy. Now, while I'm over here, I will show you this. This is just like some blind material that I've taken, and I block out the light coming in. This allows me to have full control of where the light goes in here. When I take this off, the light spills everywhere. I get a very flat image. I also get a significant reflection off my glasses, which is always a problem for me. So I have to really control the light to avoid that reflection in the glasses. And anybody who shoots videos with glasses has sort of experienced this problem. It's not great. Now, this is my rack of just all kinds of stuff. I will say, just briefly, looking at my lenses, looking at all this gear I've got, this is completely unnecessary for the type of normal work that I do for professional video, professional photography type stuff. If you were a professional photographer or even video creator, you don't need anywhere near the amount of gear I have. I strictly have this gear for the purposes of YouTube videos. So I have gear when something new comes out to compare old stuff and compare different items, mainly so that I can advise viewers of the channel what are the right things to buy or what might work best for them. Because without that, then I don't remember, or I'm using unfair comparisons. This allows me to give you a direct comparison of two different lenses, two different camera systems, and really give what I hope is solid buying advice. Now, this is my rack of, there's boxes up the top here. Then I've got lighting. I've got sliders through here, and then down here I've got more lighting. And then at the bottom, I've got the area where I keep my camera bags. And really, like what you're not even seeing everything in here. Everything in here is overflowed. It's in closets in the house, and it's behind couches, and it's just kind of taking over everything to a larger extent. So it's not just what's happening in here, it's what's happening in the greater house that has caused the problems. Now, I love this little rack that I've set up over here. This is like an IKEA rack, and These boxes that are overflowing are full of microphones, on-camera microphones. And I have been planning a massive on-camera microphone comparison video for probably about a year now. And I think I've probably got 30 of the most popular on-camera microphones in these boxes. And once I get into the new studio, I'm going to shoot that video. I also probably have about 20 of the most popular wireless microphone systems. And I want to compare all of those in a video as well, not just for the channel, but also for, for myself, because I've got all these things. I switch back and forth, and I'm never sure which one is necessarily better than another. And I'd like to have an authoritative answer on that. As I go through here at the bottom of the rack, I've got a ton of different gimbals. I've got my drawer of filters, and then I've got a drawer of just sort of miscellaneous gaffing gear, mini tripods, clamps, and things like that. The other thing that I should have mentioned is the sound blanket I've got on the wall here. This is basically it's just a $30 moving blanket from Bunnings, and that has made a huge difference in here. And I have built a single sound panel that I put at the back of the office, so that I've really got this sort of sound in here trimmed in reasonably well to work well with my MKH50. So I kind of have got this place really, really worked out. The only reason this place is too small is not for my video shooting. That's not actually the problem. The problem is that I will shoot a video and then I want to shoot a thumbnail or B-roll of a product, and I have to reorganize the entire space to just take one photo or get one video. And every time I transform the space into shooting B-roll back to sort of shooting a normal talking head video, it probably takes me 30 minutes or so to move everything around. So this just makes things so cumbersome. So in the new unit, the plan is I'm going to have B-roll stations. I'm going to have like overhead video stations. I'm going to hopefully have a couple of different sets to shoot on, where I have a couple of different looks for the videos. And my hope is that this is going to make my workflow faster, and it's going to make me be able to produce more videos. Also, I want to start concentrating more and giving some more of those tutorial videos that everybody's asking for, those photo and video tutorials for beginners, which is really the thing that people want to see most from me. And I've really gone gear heavy lately, and I want to kind of move more back into those tutorials, which have been so popular. Thank you for sharing this journey for me, watching these videos, commenting, all the things. I really appreciate it. And I hope in this video I did communicate that I'm very grateful. And the fact that you're here has made a meaningful difference to me and to my family. So thank you.